Chosen one, I know you have carried far too much in silence, walked through stormy days without telling anyone, and smiled many times merely so that those around you would not realize how exhausted you truly were. I saw the nights when your body lay still while your mind continued spinning, the mornings when you had to gather every remaining fragment of strength to fulfill your responsibilities, and the moments when you wished someone would simply ask whether you were genuinely all right. You became so accustomed to being a source of support for others that you forgot you also needed somewhere to lean. Today, I have not come to criticize you for feeling weak, nor do I ask you to continue proving that you are strong. I only want to tell you that you no longer need to carry everything alone. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my righteous will, stands as a reminder that strength is not found only in endurance. It is also found in the courage to open your heart, seek help, and lay down burdens that were never yours to carry. I understand why you chose silence. Sometimes you feared that others would not understand if you spoke. Sometimes you opened your heart and were met with indifference, causing you to believe it was better to handle everything alone. Sometimes you did not want to burden your family, worry your friends, or allow anyone to see the vulnerable part of you that you worked so hard to conceal. But, my beloved child, needing support does not make you less valuable. Even a great tree needs soil, water, and light. A strong person also needs to be heard, to rest, and to be accompanied. I did not create you to rescue everyone, nor did I give you the responsibility of repairing every life around you. You can love without carrying another person's burden for them. You can care without exhausting yourself. You can remain beside someone during hardship, while still having the right to say that you have reached your limit and need support. Some of the burdens you carry were placed upon your shoulders long ago. Perhaps you grew up in a family where people rarely spoke about emotions, where one person was expected to surrender continually in order to preserve harmony, or where you were taught that crying was weakness and rest was laziness. You learned to suppress your feelings, keep trying, and continue moving even when you had become empty inside. I do not condemn those who taught you this way of living, because perhaps they were never shown another way themselves. But you do not need to continue repeating what has left many generations exhausted. You can begin a new way of living, where honesty is valued, emotions are heard, and every person is permitted to admit that they need others. When you say that you are not all right, you do not weaken your family. You open a door through which sincerity can enter. I have seen every tear you concealed in darkness, but I do not want to turn your pain into proof that you are more special than others. I see you because I love you, just as I see those around you who are also suffering quietly. What I desire is that your pain deepen your heart rather than harden it. Perhaps because you once went unheard, you will become someone who knows how to listen. Because you once experienced scarcity, you will understand the value of generosity. Because you once lived in loneliness, you will recognize how meaningful one sincere question can be. But remember that compassion does not require you to sacrifice every boundary. You can help others from a place of stability, instead of continually giving from what has already been depleted. When I say that enough is enough, it does not mean that every difficulty will immediately disappear, or that you will never experience another sad day. It means that you do not need to continue facing everything in the same way. Enough of blaming yourself for what lies beyond your control. Enough of remaining in relationships that only receive and never give. Enough of trying to please everyone and then returning to your room completely exhausted. Enough of saying, "I am fine," when your heart clearly needs rest. I am inviting you to change the way you respond to your burdens. Break the problem into smaller parts. Speak with someone trustworthy. Seek professional assistance if what you carry has become more than you can resolve alone. Give yourself permission to postpone a decision when your mind is not clear enough. Understand that peace is not a reward for the person who finishes every responsibility. Peace is the foundation that helps you fulfill the responsibilities that truly matter. Perhaps you desire a great reversal, as though everything that once caused you pain will suddenly become a victory before the eyes of those who doubted you. I understand that desire. When you were underestimated, you longed for the day when others would realize they were wrong. When you were abandoned, you wanted them to see you happy one day and feel regret. But I want to lead you toward a deeper reversal. It happens when their words no longer control the way you see yourself. It happens when you no longer live to prove something, no longer compare yourself, and no longer need another person's regret in order to feel free. This change may not shake the world, but it will shake every old foundation within you. You once lived through the fear of rejection. Now you are learning to respect yourself. You once remained silent because you feared losing someone. Now you know how to speak the truth calmly. You once measured your worth through outward success. Now you understand that dignity is revealed in the way you live when no one is watching. The great reversal is not necessarily a moment that astonishes those who once doubted you. Sometimes it is a very ordinary morning when you awaken and realize that you no longer want to return to the relationship that once destroyed you. Sometimes it is the day when you begin managing your money instead of avoiding it, submit an application for a new opportunity, or decide to continue learning despite repeated failures. Sometimes it is the moment when you look into the mirror and no longer speak to yourself cruelly. You begin to change when you stop repeating the words that others once used to make you feel small. A genuine reversal does not only change your circumstances, it changes the person standing within those circumstances. And when you change, new choices, relationships, and directions gradually begin to appear. The lonely nights you have endured do not need to be beautified, as though every painful experience was intentionally sent by me. Some things should never have happened. Some people treated you unjustly. Some losses cannot be explained by one simple sentence. I do not want you to deny your pain or force yourself to be grateful for what once broke you. I only want you to know that what happened does not have to become the final chapter. You can reclaim the right to determine what meaning the past will have. Instead of allowing it to make you bitter, you can allow it to make you wiser. Instead of allowing betrayal to make you trust no one, you can learn to trust slowly and choose more carefully. Instead of allowing failure to prove that you are useless, you can treat it as information for a new approach. Your preparation is found not only in what you endured, but also in the skills you learned along the way. You learned to continue when no one applauded. You learned to rise after moments when you believed you could not. You understand the experience of being overlooked, and therefore you can become someone who does not easily overlook others. But I do not want you to continue using this endurance to remain in unhealthy places. The strength you gained should help you leave, not enable you to endure without limit. A person who has survived storms must also learn how to build a stable home, so that they do not spend their entire life proudly declaring how well they can stand in the rain. I am leading you from survival mode into a life of order and care. In survival mode, you react to each event and think only about getting through the day. But in this new way of living, you need to learn how to plan, preserve boundaries, and build lasting habits. Begin with your sleep, health, finances, and time. Do not consider these matters too ordinary to carry spiritual meaning. When you care for your body, you honor life. When you manage money wisely, you protect your future. When you preserve quiet time, you give your mouth a space to recover. When you stop receiving every request from another person as a command, you learn to live responsibly within your own limitations. Some people have become accustomed to your constant availability, rapid forgiveness, and willingness to solve every problem. When you begin to change, they may become uncomfortable. They may call you selfish, cold, or different. Do not immediately respond in anger. Examine which part of their criticism may contain truth and which part is merely their reaction to no longer receiving unlimited service. You can explain your boundaries kindly, but you do not need permission to protect your health, time, and peace. Those who truly love you may not adjust immediately, but they will gradually learn to respect you. Those who love only what they receive from you will attempt to make you feel guilty. Allow time and behavior to help you distinguish between them. I also want you to open your heart to receiving support. You have become so accustomed to giving that you may feel uncomfortable when someone wants to help you. You fear becoming indebted, being disappointed, or discovering that the help comes with conditions. Caution is necessary, but do not allow a few painful experiences to close you completely to every sincere heart. Some people help because they genuinely care. Some want to share their experience because they once walked a similar road. Some simply need to know specifically what you need. Learn to say clearly, I need someone to listen, I need advice, or I need help with this. When you express your needs clearly, others can support you more appropriately, and you avoid the disappointment of expecting them to guess. Michael reminds you to have the courage to step away from the belief that only you can do everything correctly. Sometimes carrying everything alone does not come only from self-sacrifice, but also from the fear of losing control. You do not trust that others will do things well enough, so you take everything upon yourself and then feel wounded because no one helps. Practice delegating responsibility, giving others opportunities, and accepting that they may do things differently. Cooperation requires patience. You do not need to correct every small mistake another person makes. Learn to distinguish what truly matters from what simply fails to happen exactly as you prefer. When you learn to share responsibility, you do not become weaker. You create a more sustainable life. My beloved child, the reversal begins when you stop seeing yourself as the only person responsible for preventing everything from collapsing. Your family is not solely your responsibility. A relationship cannot be preserved through one person's effort. Work should not consume your health and private life. You have the right to ask for fairness, clear communication, and cooperation. If others reject all responsibility, you need to reconsider how much you continue investing. I am not telling you to abandon someone who genuinely needs help, but neither do I want another person's irresponsibility to become a sentence of exhaustion upon you. Perhaps the first turning point is learning to rest without guilt. You have connected your worth to productivity for far too long. A day when you accomplish little causes you to condemn yourself, but you are not a machine. Rest does not take away your diligence. It protects your ability to continue. Allow your body to recover, your mind to become quiet, and your emotions to be named honestly. Some poor decisions are made not because you lack wisdom, but because you are too tired to think clearly. Do not wait until you are completely depleted before allowing yourself to stop. A rhythm of life containing rest will carry you farther than constant and rigid effort. I know you desire to see results from all the months and years you have worked. I cannot promise that every loss will be repaid in the exact form you expect, but I can remind you that no lesson needs to be wasted. You can use the understanding you gained to choose more wisely. You can transform compassion into kindness toward others. You can turn perseverance into the foundation of healthy work, family, or community. The deepest repayment is not when the world returns exactly what it took, but when the past no longer takes away your ability to live well in the present. Forgive those who failed to recognize your burden, but do not continue hiding and then expect them to understand automatically. Learn to speak. Forgive those who received too much from you, but also acknowledge that there were times when you failed to establish boundaries. Forgive yourself for trying to please everyone, neglecting your own needs, and believing that greater suffering made your love more genuine. From this day forward, you can love differently. Love while remaining honest. Give while recognizing when enough is enough. Remain without erasing yourself, and leave when respect no longer exists. My beloved child, the doors that closed before you do not necessarily mean that you were rejected. Often, they were a redirection that prevented you from continuing upon a path no longer suitable for the person you are becoming. I know you stood before a closed door for a very long time, trying to understand why you had worked so hard and yet were still not welcomed. You wondered whether you were not capable enough, not worthy enough, or had somehow caused every opportunity to turn away. There were moments when you watched others enter the place you deeply desired, while you remained outside with unanswered questions. But today, I want you to stop treating every delay as punishment. Not everything you desire is capable of preserving your peace, dignity, and future. Some places you wanted to enter because you feared being left behind. Some people you wanted to keep because you feared loneliness. Some forms of success you pursued only because you wanted to prove your worth to those who once looked down upon you. I do not close doors to cause you pain. Sometimes I allow them to close so that you have an opportunity to recognize another road that stubbornness caused you to overlook. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my righteous will, stands beside you during seasons of redirection as a reminder of courage. Michael does not come to help you break down every door through force, but to remind you to become strong enough to leave what no longer opens for you. There are battles you no longer need to fight. There are rejections that do not need to become arguments through which you prove yourself. Some people have decided not to recognize your value, and exhausting yourself in an attempt to persuade them will not change their hearts. Courage sometimes means knowing when to stop knocking, turn around, and walk toward the road where light remains. What supports your growth will not require you to sacrifice your self-respect in order to enter. Perhaps you once believed that those who opposed you had delayed your life. It is true that some people were unfair, spoke falsely, or deliberately refused to recognize your effort, but do not give them the authority to determine the meaning of that season. They may have created difficulties, but they cannot stop you from learning, growing, and becoming wiser, unless you allow bitterness to possess your heart. A period that appeared to be delay can become a place where you strengthen your abilities, examine your motives, and learn to prepare for greater responsibilities. You believed you were standing still, but many things within you were being reorganized. You learned not to give trust too quickly, to evaluate promises through actions, and to understand that a good opportunity requires not only enthusiasm, but also discipline, knowledge, and perseverance. Do not use this understanding to beautify every failure as though everything had been perfectly arranged. Some doors closed because you were not sufficiently prepared. Some opportunities passed because you procrastinated or acted without wisdom. Some relationships broke because both people hurt one another and refused to change. I do not want you to use the idea of redirection to avoid responsibility. Truth does not come to condemn you, but to return power to you. If you recognize that you need to learn more, then learn. If you hurt someone, apologize. If a habit is destroying opportunities, begin changing it. When you honestly acknowledge your responsibility, you are no longer trapped in the role of someone who only waits for circumstances to change. You become someone capable of building a new road together with me. Preparation does not mean sitting still and waiting for a breakthrough to appear. Preparation means caring well for what you already possess, even when it seems small. It means performing your current work diligently, even when it is not your dream position. It means learning to manage a small amount of money before hoping to receive more. It means developing healthy communication before praying for a lasting relationship. It means knowing how to rest, maintain boundaries, and care for your health, so that when an opportunity arrives, you do not enter it with an exhausted mind. Some people desire a great door to open while refusing to repair the small hinges of everyday life. I want you to understand that readiness is formed through very ordinary actions, repeated quietly without needing anyone to observe them. You may be very close to a turning point, but do not turn that possibility into pressure to move quickly. Being very close does not refer only to time. It also refers to maturity. Every time you choose honesty instead of concealment, you move closer. Every time you abandon an old habit, you move closer. Every time you say no to an unhealthy invitation, however attractive it may appear, you move closer. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you move closer. A genuine breakthrough is not the moment when everyone begins admiring you. It is the moment when you are no longer willing to betray good values merely to be accepted. When the foundation within you changes, your outward circumstances have an opportunity to change sustainably. There are times when you feel that the atmosphere around you is changing. Things that once excited you no longer seem attractive. Former conversations feel heavy. You desire to live more simply, truthfully, and meaningfully. Do not immediately assume that a mysterious force is drawing you into a supernatural timeline. Perhaps this is a very natural sign that you have matured. When your awareness changes, familiar environments may no longer be suitable. When you begin respecting yourself, relationships built upon exploitation become increasingly uncomfortable. When you desire peace, habits that create chaos are no longer tolerated. The change you feel is first an invitation to live more consistently with what you now understand. A new timeline is not a place into which you are suddenly transported without making any choices. It begins on the day when you stop responding according to former patterns. In the past, rejection may have caused you to diminish yourself immediately. Now you learn to examine the situation, draw out the lesson, and continue. In the past, loneliness may have led you back to an unhealthy relationship. Now you accept the silence so that you can heal. In the past, financial anxiety caused you to avoid the numbers. Now you sit down and create a plan. In the past, when someone made you feel guilty, you surrendered immediately. Now you calmly ask whether the request is fair. Every new response becomes a step separating you from the old cycle. I know that certain cycles have exhausted you for many years. You continually began with hope, and then gave up before seeing results. You forgave without establishing boundaries, so the harm repeated itself. You overworked, rested with guilt, became exhausted, and lost all motivation. You spent money to soothe your emotions, then became anxious and condemned yourself. These cycles are not broken by one powerful declaration. They must be replaced with new habits. Go to sleep a little earlier. Set aside regular time to review your finances. Express your needs before resentment accumulates. Leave a conversation when it becomes insulting, and return only when both people are calm. These actions may appear small, but they are the road leading you out of a season of exhaustion. Prayers that appear unanswered must also be examined with maturity. Sometimes the answer comes through an open door. Sometimes it comes through a closed one. Sometimes I place before you a person who can guide you, but you must be humble enough to listen. Sometimes the answer is not an immediate change of circumstances, but the strength to do what you once feared doing. Some prayers require time, some require your action, and some concern things you later realize you were protected by not receiving. I do not want you to treat everything you have not obtained as silence. Look at what you have learned while waiting, who has appeared, and which abilities have awakened within you. Neither do I promise that every prayer will be answered in the precise form you desire. My love does not mean giving you everything you urgently ask for without considering the consequences. A child may request something that gives temporary pleasure while causing lasting harm. A loving and mature person knows when to say that the time is not right or that the path is unsuitable. You may feel disappointed, and you are permitted to be honest about that disappointment. But do not allow an unexpected answer to convince you that you have been abandoned. Some things can be understood. Only after time reveals why they were not permitted to remain. As you enter a new season, release the belief that every person from your past must leave and everything old must be destroyed. Some relationships need to end, but others need healing through honest conversation. Some habits must be abandoned, but certain values received from your family and past should be preserved. Renewal does not mean denying everything about your former self. It means receiving what was good, repairing what was unhealthy, and refusing to carry what repeatedly stole your peace. You do not need to hate your former self in order to become someone new. Be grateful that person survived, using the understanding available at the time, and then gently guide them toward a wiser way of living. Michael reminds you to guard the doorway of your life, not only from people with harmful intentions, but also from what you permit to enter each day. What kind of words are influencing your mind? Do you spend time consuming content that brings peace, or content that continually provokes comparison and fear? Are you surrounded by people who encourage responsibility, or by those who always blame others? Your inner space is formed by what you repeat. Be selective, but do not become closed. Listen to correction, but do not allow every voice to become a command. You need an open mind and a stable foundation so that you can receive what is new without losing your direction. I want you to leave the seasons that exhausted you, but this also means that you must stop placing yourself back into similar circumstances. Do not return merely because something feels familiar. Do not accept an apology without change and call it hope. Do not continue rescuing someone who repeatedly refuses responsibility. Do not remain indefinitely in work that destroys your health without creating a transition plan. Some things cannot change immediately, but you can still begin preparing. Save money, learn, seek assistance, and build one step at a time toward leaving what is depleting you. Hope is not sitting still and wishing for a different day. Hope is acting today because you believe tomorrow can be built more wisely. My beloved child, forgive those who once closed doors before you, but do not waste your life standing outside and hoping they will regret it. Perhaps they were wrong, or perhaps that direction was never yours. Receive the lesson and continue. Forgive yourself for trying too long in a place that produced no fruit, holding on to a dream that was no longer appropriate, and calling exhaustion loyalty. You are permitted to change your mind after gaining deeper understanding. You are allowed to leave a goal that no longer reflects your values. Redirection is not failure. It may be evidence that you have become mature enough not to continue wasting time, merely because you fear. Admitting that you need a different road, courageously enter renewal through practical actions. Reconsider the way you use your mornings. Organize your room, workplace, and priorities. Complete an application, begin a course, or speak with someone experienced. Reduce an unnecessary expense. Spend time with those who genuinely value you. Protect one quiet hour for prayer, reflection, or writing what you are learning. A new timeline is not opened through a mysterious ritual. It is built through days when you live more consciously than you did before. Do not become anxious when results fail to appear immediately. A tree recently moved into new soil needs time to take root before it produces flowers. You are the same. Perhaps no one can yet see the outward change, but you are learning to respond differently, choose differently, and preserve what is good for longer periods. Do not dig up the roots every day to check whether you have progressed. Persevere. There will be days when you return to an old habit, but one stumble does not erase the entire journey. Recognize it, correct it, and continue. I do not require you to be perfect. I invite you to remain faithful to the healthier direction. Now lay down the fear that you have been abandoned. You are still being guided, but that guidance does not remove your responsibility or your freedom to choose. Be grateful for the doors that protected you from what was unsuitable, for the waiting periods that helped you mature, and for the people who remained with sincerity. Release resentment toward those who hindered you, shame over your failures, and the need to know exactly how the future will unfold. You do not need to see the entire road before taking the next step. Do what is right before you, preserve a gentle heart, and keep your eyes clear. I will not guide you through panic, but through peace deep enough for you to hear what matters. I do not promise a life without further challenges, but I remind you that you no longer belong to the old cycles. You now possess greater understanding, experience, and courage. Use them to build a new season in which you live kindly, but with boundaries. Hopefully, but without illusion. Strongly, but with the wisdom to rest. And faithfully, while still acting responsibly. Each ordinary choice of this kind will lead you out of stagnation and into a life that grows more open, steadfast, and peaceful day by day.